Hey everyone, it's Miss Kearney again for another Screencastify video. Thank you for tuning in. Today we're going on to mini lesson 2. So let's take a moment so that we're organized this unit and go ahead and write at the top of your mini lesson. This is entry number 2. You can see that labeled on the backboard. So today we're talking about what makes two things proportional. And if two things are proportional, then what is the constant of proportionality? That was the really big word that a lot of you saw on the pretest that you didn't know what it was, constant of proportionality. So we're going to talk about that today. So take just a moment and read your learning goal. Perfect. So you see your learning goal says that by the end of today, that you should be able to explain how to find the constant of proportionality. So before we get to that really big word, let's just backtrack to some things you talked about in 6th grade. In 6th grade, you talked about something called a proportion. So at the top of your mini lesson, now is when I want you to start taking your notes. So a proportion states that it is an equation that states two ratios are equal. For example, yesterday, we talked about rates, and we talked about one rate where we said that someone went 75 miles in 3 hours. So we wanted to talk about a proportion that is equal to that, a ratio that is equal to that would make it a proportion. We could say that that is equal to 25 miles per 1 hour. These two things are the same thing. If you say you went 75 miles in 3 hours, that meant you probably went 25 miles per hour. So what you see is you have one ratio and another ratio, and those two things are equal. When we state that two ratios, so I'm right here reading, when two ratios form a proportion, just like we just created, we say that those things are proportional. So take just a minute, so let's backtrack about what we just said. When you have two ratios that are equal, like I just wrote down, that means they form a proportion. And if they form a proportion, that means they are proportional. So you learned a little bit about last year. So when you have two things that are proportional, that actually means that there is a constant rate of change that relates one variable to another. For example, if you look up here, the example that we just talked about, the constant rate of change there is 3. I'm sorry, the constant rate of change there is 25 miles because that was our unit rate. So the constant rate of change relates one to the other. So let's talk about how to find this constant rate of change. Constant rate. So at what rate is it changing? For example, the example above, we're changing at a rate of 25 miles per hour. So every hour we're changing we're going 25 miles further. That's my constant rate of change. So now let's move on to this big word called constant of proportionality. A constant of proportionality, I'm going to give you a hint. It's a really big word, but it's really not that big of a thing. You basically have already learned constant of proportionality. Constant of proportionality is simply the unit rate. It's the rate that something is changing per 1. So a constant of proportionality is the constant rate of change that is associated with the different pairs of measurements in a proportional relationship. But I'm also going to give you another hint. Constant proportionality, like I said, is the same as the unit rate. That just means how much per 1. If it says what's the constant of proportionality, we want to know how much was one thing because that means that's the rate that it's changing. So usually the constant proportionality is written in the form y equals kx. And I know some of you are thinking, Miss Kearney, I have no clue what you're saying. And it might sound like I'm talking another language or Japanese or something, but just stay with me and you're going to see these problems are actually a lot easier than they sound. So, constant proportionality is written in the form y equals kx, where k, this k right here, that is actually the constant of proportionality. So if you're trying to find, if we're saying that y equals k times x, that just means the constant of proportionality is what number, that k, what number are you multiplying x by to get y? So what number are you multiplying x by to get y would be your constant of proportionality. Now, if you wanted to solve for k, you could simply take the equation y equals k times x, and if we wanted to figure out what is the constant of proportionality, I can just say, well, let's divide by x to get k by itself, and so k is equal to y divided by x. So if you are ever given a chart or a graph and you're asked to find the constant of proportionality, if for some reason you can't remember that's the unit rate, all you need to do is say, what is the y divided by the x? Okay? What rate is my graph or my chart changing? So here's an example. You have a graph or a chart here, and it says, what is the constant of proportionality? So we want to say, what am I multiplying x by to get y every time? What is my constant rate of change? What am I doing every time to x to get y? And a lot of you are saying, Miss Kearney, that's easy. I'm multiplying by 4. I'm saying 1 times 4, 2 times 4 gives me 8, 3 times 4 gives me 12, and 4 times 4 gives me 16. You know what you just did? You just found the constant of proportionality. The constant of proportionality is what am I multiplying x to get y? Remember we said y equals what times x? So here my constant of proportionality is 4x equals y. Now one other way you could do it is you could have worked backwards. Remember we said that you could say y divided by x. So let's do that. What would we do with 4 to get to 1? We would divide by 4. Divide. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So you can either work forwards or backwards. Just ask yourself, what am I either multiplying x to get y, or what am I dividing y? What is y divided by x? Okay? So let's look at an example. Now you're given a chart. And you are asked, it says at Books Unlimited, there are 4 paperback books that cost $16. Fill in the missing values in the ratio table. So we know that 4 books cost $16. I want to figure out how much 5 books cost, how much 1 book costs, and how many books can I get for $48. So it's saying, first of all, this should be proportional. And if it is, we want to figure out what is the constant of proportionality and what is the equation. So, some of you may have already started filling in the table. So, if I can buy 4 books for $16, could I work backwards and say, well, how much is 1 book? What's 16 divided by 4? And that, many of you are saying, is 4. So, 1 book is $4. Well, if 1 book is $4, then how much is 5 books? If 1 book is $4, that means 5 books would then be $20. And if 1 book is $4, how many books can I buy for $48? So now I'm going to say 48 divided by 4, and that would be, let's see, 12 books. So we filled in my chart. Let's keep going. Now it says, what is the constant of proportionality? Gosh, that word constant of proportionality. What did we say that was? Well, let's look back at the top. It said the constant of proportionality is what you are multiplying x to get y. So let's say that this is my x and this is my y. What were you multiplying every time your x by to get your y? That's right, you were multiplying times 4. We also said the constant of proportionality could simply be what is y divided by x. So you might work backwards and you might say 16 divided by 4. So 16 divided by 4, 4. 20 divided by 5, 4. 48 divided by 12, 4. 4 divided by 4 is 4. So my constant of proportionality is 4. So now it says, can you write an equation to represent the cost? That means if you wanted to figure out how much the books cost, what would you have to do? Well, we said every book is $4, and the number of, so we have a number of books times 4 gives me my cost. So my equation is the cost equals 4 times the number of books, whereas 4 is my constant of proportionality. So now what I want you to do is I want you to take a moment and try to do the next example on your own, and you may check the answer key or check with Miss Kearney when you move to her station. Thanks, guys. Good luck. Love you, mean it.